Welcome to Great Minds with Lost&Found, the podcast that connects people and reimagines systems to improve mental health for youth and young adults. I'm your host, Joel Kaskinen. Lost&Found is a comprehensive nonprofit organization that aims to do more to eliminate suicide for youth and young adults in the United States. Now that you know who we are and what we're all about, let's get to the show. Hello, and welcome back to Great Minds with Lost&Found, the podcast where we connect humans and reimagine systems to improve the mental health ecosystem. We are recording live today from Black Hills State University in Spearfish, South Dakota, in front of a live audience. So thank you all for being here, and thank you to BHSU for being big supporters of Lost&Found and also our 30 Days, 30 Stories project. Thank you to everyone for coming out in the middle of a random Tuesday and joining us for this riveting conversation about mental health, and joining us also for the importance of storytelling is going to be a major focus of today. So thanks for sharing your stories. Thanks for listening to people's stories and getting vulnerable with us. Those of you in the audience, please keep your phones on silent and side conversations to a minimum. There will be time at the end for questions if needed, and people feel obliged, so hold those till the end as well. All right, let's get started with today's podcast conversation. So I have a panel of 3 speakers with us today. I have Patrick Murphy, Corey Kennedy, and Mato Abourezk. Did I pronounce that correct?
Close enough. It's fine.
Okay.
That'll work.
All 3 of these guys are local to the Black Hills area and are participants in the 30 Days, 30 Stories project. So we are thrilled to talk about the intertwining of stories and mental health today. So for those of you that don't know, maybe you're tuning in for the first time or joining us in the audience for the first time, 30 Days, 30 Stories is a project that Lost&Found has done for the last 3 years, and it occurs during September, which is National Suicide Prevention Month, and the goal is to empower others to share their stories, reduce stigma, and also to provide awareness of resources and support. And so we do that by sharing our stories and connecting with each other. So really cool project, really important to us, near and dear to our hearts, but what's really cool about it is hearing from 30 South Dakotans across the state with various and vast lived experiences. So thrilled to have 3 of those storytellers with us today. So let's dive in. I'm going to start with just having some brief introductions. So my name is Joel Kaskinen. I am a communications specialist for Lost&Found, and I am the host of the Great Minds with Lost&Found podcast. I'll kick it over to you, Patrick.
All right, thanks. Yeah, hi, my name is Patrick Murphy. I'm actually born and raised in Rapid City. Did a little 5-year stint in North Dakota, but I moved back 5 years ago. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. I appreciate it. I'm married, got an awesome wife named Kayla.
Hi, Kayla.
Yes, hi, Kayla. I got 3 awesome cats too. Got Harper, Gwenny, and Oliver. And worked at Walmart now for 20 years. Pretty crazy. And yeah, we live in here, just working hard, and I guess the last thing I'll say is a big Broncos fan, love to write poetry, and I'm honored to share my story.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Corey, let's go to you.
Hi, my name is Corey Kennedy. I am the Senior Prevention Specialist for Lost&Found in the Black Hills region. I have an office here at Black Hills State University. Born in Nebraska. Live in South Dakota. I've lived in South Dakota for the last 20 years. Super excited to be part of the Black Hills and live here. Super excited to be here and share my story and just hang out with you people today.
Awesome. Thank you. And Mato, last but certainly not least.
Hi, I'm Mato James Abourezk. I'm from Rapid City. I am living in Rapid City currently. Proud member of the Oglala Lakota Sioux tribe. And shout out to my fiance and my mom. And my other 300 family members.
Oh, we love it. All right. Well, today, because we are talking about the importance of storytelling as suicide prevention, I want to hear a little bit about y'all's stories. And as the 3 of you have participated in our project, you kind of know a little bit about your own personal background and the background of the project. But I would love for our guests, listeners, and audience members to hear your own takes. So, Mato, let's start with you this time. Just give a brief synopsis of your mental health journey and where you've been at.
My mental health journey probably started when I was 13, maybe 12, but I'd like to think I've always dealt with it. And I'm a big believer that it's passed down, so I'm sure I got it from my mom and my grandpa. Thanks for that. I have cerebral palsy, so I went through about 13 surgeries in 15 years. I kind of not started off on the wrong foot, but I had a challenge throughout my life, and then when I was about 14 or 15, all that kind of caught up with me. I mean, when you're a kid, you kind of don't think about that stuff. You just kind of like, oh, I'm just doing it. But then when you turn into a teenager, you start to think about it a lot more. So that's sort of why it sort of rose up. And, I had a really rough time in my 1 year of college, actually here at BH. It got really rough. But, and so then after that, my lowest point, I was, ready to make a change. And thankfully, my mom's in mental health counselor. She's a doctor now. I have to shout that out. She's a doctor now. So thankfully, she was there to help me on that. And ever since, I've leaned on family and support to sort of make a better life for myself without being so sad all the time.
Definitely. Well, thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Corey, let's move to you.
Okay, so my journey probably started my freshman year of high school. Like, you didn't really, at that particular point, like Mato said, pay attention to those things that happened to you when you were a kid. But then I started to realize that I was living in a home that had a lot of alcoholism and drug use and abuse and neglect. And then my parents moved, trying to make things better. It put me into a brand new school, so I was kind of left away from all of my friends and my connectivity, and I had to start over, and I didn't make that connection, and so I didn't fit in. So I spent high school being very isolated and feeling very alone. Made some poor choices in relationships, made some poor choices in some decision making. My depression and my anxieties continued to grow and get darker and deeper. And at one point when I was 17, I tried to commit suicide. Just something happened that changed the course of that direction for me. I had support in pastors and support in teachers, and those support pieces allowed me to feel like I had a foundation, which gave me an opportunity to start to believe in myself and give myself that opportunity to grow, manifest a different future for myself than the one that I had known my whole life. That journey I'm still on. I'm still trying to figure all that stuff out. I really do still have really dark, depressive days where I don't want to get out of bed, days where I don't feel like I can do the work that I do. But the thing that keeps me going is I know that first and foremost, I get to be around people every day who are super supportive, who are super in love with making change. And I know that I'm a part of that. And I know that if I show up every day, I'm going to make a difference like somebody made for me that one time. And so that gives me that hope that I can have that reach out for somebody who needs that extra hand, like somebody had given to me. So, again, I think Patrick had said this earlier, the journey doesn't always just go away. Like, there are days where you feel like you're doing really good, and then there are days where you feel like you don't have it. But the connectivity to the people in this field, the friends that I have that I've made through this journey, allow me to keep getting up every day, allow me to keep showing up every day, allow me to keep handing out and helping out.
Thanks for sharing. And Patrick.
All right, yeah. So for me, growing up, like I said, I had a pretty ideal childhood growing up, but for some reason, I'll say mental health, it doesn't just pick on a certain type of person. Like that's something that it'll go after any demographic at all. But I mean, I just grew up, for whatever reason, I just had horrible self-talk. I could go 0 to 100 on how worthless I am or any mistake, and so it just made me very anxious. And no one ever told me that. My parents never, spoke to me that way. It was just, for whatever reason, that's just who I was. So I grew up very anxious and worried, and as a teenager, it just got worse. But you just live with the fear. It's just how I am. I'm just wired that way. And I got married, and when I was very young, and then we wound up getting divorced. So I had to go through a little phase of my life where I had to hit the reset button. So I was very lost for a time. And I'm happy to say that that's obviously I've turned a corner there. I met my wife. We've been together for since 2008. I have to do the math now. It's been so, but she's been awesome. But that's just something that just stayed with me. I'd get very panicky. I'd get very depressed. I was anxious a lot, and I had a time where they hit an apex was, we were trying to have kids, and we had fertility problems, and we don't have kids as of yet. We're still kicking around adoption. Who knows? Maybe we'll be blessed with one we made ourselves. We'll see. But I got very, very depressed because as a man, that's one thing you can give your wife no one else can give her as a baby, and it just broke me. And I carried that in my pocket for several years, and I kind of got to a head of, in 2018, I had just depression to the point where I was planning out like what I could do to just end this that wouldn't be a burden on her, and she could start over with somebody better. And that was kind of the eye opener for me that it's time to make changes. And so I had kind of with Corey, I had great pastors that I talked to. I didn't share everything that was deep inside me like that. I didn't really want to tell you this, killing myself, but I was very open with them that I was hurting, and I'm thankful. I've since 12 years old, I've accepted Jesus as my Savior, and yet I still carried all these burdens with me, and you don't have to do that. That's the beautiful thing to me about Jesus. He'll meet you right where you are and take it off of you, and you give it to him, and he'll give you everything. And it took me a long time to really realize that, but through a lot of work on my part, but also just having a great wife, great pastors, and I finally just also broke down and said, this anxiety's got to go. So I talked to my doctor and said, I need help with this. So I got on anxiety meds, helped me reset how I approach life, I guess, on a daily basis. And it's a process. Like Corey also said, it was a good way of saying it, not every day is perfect. And Sunday I wake up and I'm just really down, and I don't really understand why I don't want to do anything. And you just keep pushing, don't stay in that spot. So been a lot of work put into overcoming the past. So I'm excited about the future. I'm actually going to be going to school here in just a few weeks, and I'm on the baby steps to getting into the social work field and helping people with their mental health as well.
Amazing. So using your own experiences to help other people.
Yeah.
That's honestly a major part of this project and of this podcast. So thank you, all three of you, for getting vulnerable with us and sharing your stories. Now that we've heard a little bit about your backgrounds, and we know that stories are used in suicide prevention, but there is so much more to it than that. Let's look at the landscape a little bit. So as we look at the current situation, I want to know from y'all's perspectives, what's something that's really working in the mental health space here in the Black Hills?
That's a good question. And I don't want to answer for you two. So this is just my opinion. But,
Absolutely.
Having, my mom, she works in this space. So she sometimes comes home and tells me a little bit about her frustrations with this space. So, but I would say the positives that I've heard is that it is slowly changing. It definitely needs a lot of work. And I would say too that it also needs a lot of work. But there's signs of hope that it's changing at least a little bit, especially with organizations like you guys and stuff like that. So yeah, that's my positive, I guess.
Beautifully said.
So, I guess I feel kind of like I'm gonna say infant in this world of mental health awareness, but I think people think about like social media and like the internet is like getting the word out there more, but I still don't see a lot about what you can do. So that would be something that if we could make it better would be just blasting them like, where can you go to talk to someone if you're really struggling? Like, what can you do? I think we're moving in the right direction just from what I've seen. And things that I think are good was back in April when a lot of this started. Actually met Corey. I was gonna give him some props today anyways, but I went to a seminar that was talking about like suicide prevention. I remember it was like in the agricultural field, which is obviously in South Dakota it's a big deal, but dude's just gracious and kind of been a good mentor a little bit for me. I wanted to give you a shout out too. But just like that seminar, like the information was phenomenal. Like just having more opportunity to share what people can do to help and how they can help is a big deal. So
I would agree wholeheartedly with Patrick's sentiment and Mato's. I think one of the best things about what's happening in our mental health field is the people that are in it. Absolutely, there are a lot of imperfections. Absolutely, there are a lot of things where there are gaps. But the people that are in the field that are passionate about supporting people are there. And I think that is the thing that helps us feel comfortable and compassionate in going through these difficult journeys, because we know that the people that we're getting the opportunity to share these with are there and trustworthy and wanting to help. So I think that's one of the best things. And I really do enjoy talking about the mental health field and the kind of people that are working in this avenue to help make things better. Yeah.
Awesome. I want to kind of circle back to something that you said, Patrick. So you mentioned that you wish that there was a way that people were blasting this out more on social media or in the public or, whatever, and kind of raising more awareness. So, kind of tying it into your perspective and your own experiences, what are some resources that you all have utilized that you would like to kind of share some shout outs to right now?
Well, so for me, like, a basic one for me is like, if you're feeling that way, like you're feeling a lot of anxiety, depression, like go, I think seeing your doctor is a good thing. It's a basic thing. If you don't have one, start somewhere, go to a clinic, go start somewhere. Cause my faith's a big deal. And I think faith and science, when they meet, is great. That's why we've progressed as a society. Like, growing and understanding medicine could be a good thing as long as it's being used right. But also, one of the coolest things I heard was that, and I knew it would get mentioned eventually today, that 988 number. Like when I found out what that's for, it's kind of like 911 for mental health issues, basically. I was like, well, what that does is, so 988, if you're having a really tough time, like you can call that, and there's a lot of things they can offer on that. And it's just, I was blown away. Like I'd never heard of that till I went to that seminar. I was like, why is this not out there more? Like, this is so cool. Like, I don't know how new it is, but
July, it turned a year.
A year. Okay. So maybe that's why I haven't heard a lot, but
July 16th.
I think that's amazing. I think it's a good step forward.
Awesome. What other resources have you all tapped into here in the Black Hills that you want to shout out?
I don't know. Mine have been more individual resources. Like for Corey, example, I've known him since I was, 12 or whatever. So mine's really been like mentors and sort of programs that help deal with that and sort of get me social and stuff like that. So, I don't know. I don't have a specific resource. I feel bad that I don't have an answer for that, but
That's okay. People are
You can
resources
plug your
too.
mom, like,
well, yeah,
counselor at home.
yeah, well, that's kind of I guess my mom, having a, doctorate in mental health and all that stuff, and, I guess she was the biggest resource, and, with my culture, like family is your biggest resource, so, I would say my family, yeah.
And just to promote the Abourezk family. Like, mom has got a PhD. She's writing indigenous material that actually she's offered to help Lost and Found utilize in high school settings. She's right now training Catholic social services, indigenous counseling programming. Lena's been in counseling for 20 years, something like that. Dad was his own lawyer firm, or his grandpa has his own lawyer firm, so Charlie Abourezk. So, but he was also really great at connecting indigenous people and family members, and so Mato has a lot of really great support pieces that I think the community itself get to utilize, not just Mato himself.
No, I think, I will plug my greatest resource was my culture, and that it's so family oriented, and so it's a close group and stuff like that. So it's very, not that we don't believe in mental health. It's just unlike some other cultures, we have better ways of dealing with it, and we acknowledge it. So I think that helps a lot. That's my resource. Not a specific thing or company, but my culture.
I'm going to put a plug out for Lost and Found. I think one of the coolest things about, and I say this because I work for Lost and Found, but I used to work at another organization where I was really high up in the field, and I decided to walk away from that field because of really Eric Mucky and his vision for mental health. He has this really great idea that we can create a brand new version of how we support mental health based on the community need versus the financial need. And so our approach to supporting families, supporting students, supporting people in the community comes from a very heartfelt, real point of view. And we take that education that we get from that work that we're doing with those people, and we put that back into the field. So that material gets put back into being an educational piece that we utilize to continue to support the community. But then also that material's on our website. So if you go to resilienttoday.org, that material is free. So you can access the 30 days stuff, you can access our mental health stuff, you can access mentoring. So you can go to resilienttoday.org and access a bunch of material that will help you on your own journey. And if you're not finding what you're looking for there, we also have connections to other resources such as 988. Which will help you also connect to those. So I think that's another great resource. I really find that to be, when you can offer people free material, I think that really inspires people to want to work on themselves, because it's not forcing them to think about the financial burden it will create, which I think is fantastic. And especially in the Black Hills community, where there's a very enormous amount of people who do not get mental health support because they just can't access it. I think it's great that they can get online and find something that will support them.
That's actually a great segue to my next question, which is kind of the flip of what we've been talking about. What is, in your perspectives or in your experiences, the area of greatest need when it comes to mental health support in the Black Hills?
Probably people. It's kind of funny you say that with just work in general. Probably, I can imagine staffing is probably a big one. Just hearing some of the things that were brought up at some of that seminar I went to, just the amount of need that is in that field. So it's pretty excited to get involved in that. That's honestly the only one I can think of. Is just the hands, eyes, ears, feet to do it.
Definitely.
Oh boy. Okay. How much time do you want? No, I'm kidding. I'll go a little more semi-personal here. I think the biggest issue for me in my experience, especially identifying as a Native American, is having a resource for that specific group of people. Especially considering that we're 90% of the population here. You'd think that more people would know about stuff like that. That's where I'll shamelessly plug my mom again. I mean, that's what her sort of mission is to sort of teach counselors how to deal with Native American clients and stuff like that. Because I think it's really hard to translate the westernized mental health system to the indigenous system. So it's a very tricky sort of shift that not a lot of people know how to do. So when they apply their westernized learnings to indigenous people, it just doesn't work, and it might even make it worse. So that's my biggest thing, is there's not enough support for the largest population around this area. That's my biggest thing.
I love that you brought that into the conversation, because looking at the data, a lot of the deaths that we do have by suicide are among our native populations, and a lot of them are here in West River. And so I'm glad that you just brought that up. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think in continuation of what Mato was talking about and in support of what Patrick's talking about, I think one of the biggest difficulties is just accessing. I think a lot of people don't understand what resources are available or how they can get access to those resources. And if they do know that those resources are available, how can they get to those resources? So transportation is also a very large piece. And I'm part of a lot of boards that transportation conversation is always a big piece. Daisy Jane is Mato's work dog,
Yeah,
and Daisy
sorry.
Jane wants to get in on the conversation today. Like,
He's growling at students. It's embarrassing.
She can be part of the conversation.
So I think one of the aspects of this is how do we connect resources that do exist? How do we utilize those resources as we continually talk about resources shrinking? How do we utilize the resources that are available in a better fashion? And I think, making sure that those resources are meeting the needs for everybody is certainly a big part of that conversation. It's one of my favorite things about Lost and Found is the inclusivity format that we put as one of our main goals. All people are welcome.
If I could also add the LGBTQ community as well as the that diverts from Corey, but I remember that they're a huge minority here.
But in conjunction.
Yeah, that also needs a lot of work as well.
Definitely. I mean, we're facing one of the most strict anti-trans and two-spirit laws in the nation, and because of it, we do see a lot of LGBTQ young people dying by suicide. So I don't think that's a diversion from the conversation whatsoever, Mato. So, I mean, it's very, very abundantly clear that we need to be supporting those demographics and those groups who are at great risk. So, kind of talking about risk and talking about statistics, we know that suicide is the leading cause of death in South Dakota for those under 34 years of age. So I'm curious, why do you feel that young people today are at such great risk? And have you noticed any trends among young people here in your communities?
I would say it's, for me, I've noticed it's a lot of social media. It's very easy to compare yourself to others and see where you're at. And if you have issues with things like that, then it might make it worse. And I would say it's very easy for someone to bully someone else. It's a lot easier than back in the day. I mean, I'm young, so I can't speak to writing a letter saying you suck or something. It's a lot easier, just to text someone that.
Man,
but
you get this.
You wouldn't want to get that letter.
yeah, exactly. No, but I think that especially here, not really being behind everything else in terms of where we're at as a culture here in South Dakota doesn't help either. I always joke that we just discovered what capris were, right? We just discovered what that was, and they're just now learning about Nirvana. It's great. But no, I think that it's, in all seriousness though, it's become a dangerous trend here. And again, back to that. For Native youth, especially with MMIP and stuff like that, there's a danger of, you're kind of an outsider in your own home, if that makes sense. So I think that doesn't help either. I don't know if that makes sense, but if I'm making any sense at all. But
will you just share with any listeners who don't know what MMIP is?
Yeah, so MMIP is Murdered and Missing Indigenous People. It was MMIW, but I think with that risk, to sort of tie it back into everything, we're seen as a commodity here, and it's very romanticized for non-Native people, who Native people are, and I feel like we're seen as less here, again, even though we're 90% of the population. So I think that specific youth is in terrible danger of having that, and I think their suicide rates are, not even calculated, but I think they're astronomical. I think if I use that word right, but no, and I not to ramble on, but I think that plus the non-Native youth and social media and everything, I don't even know if that all makes sense, but
No, it totally does.
I think it's just the sort of poverty that we have here in South Dakota is a giant issue. I think, having all those issues like that sort of breeds that sort of danger that we're talking about here. So, yeah.
Any other trends that y'all have noticed among young people here?
So I was gonna agree with you on that. Social media, I can't, like, and even through the pandemic, like, I just trying to learn at home, like, but just the social media, like, the amount of pressure that I think kids are under today, like, when I was growing up was not there. Like, it's just, like, only a few kids had cell phones when I was graduating high school. It was like a cool new thing. So,
Yep.
But, yeah, I think, and also with more, when homes are like, when parents aren't together, I think it's harder too for kids to really have the support system that they need. Like, and so you wind up doing a lot of things on your own that you shouldn't have to. I'm a manager. When I was introduced, I didn't really get to say it, but I didn't think to. But I work at Walmart, and right now I'm a supervisor, and so I get to work with a lot of the kids that work there, and no matter what their background is, I try and invest in them just so that at least they got someone that can listen, because listening is huge. I don't care what generation you're in, like, just having someone that's older than you, that's been there, that's listening and investing in you, it's huge. And so like I said, a lot of kids just trying to grow up too soon. I think it's always kind of a big thing with kids, but I think it's more so now more than ever. And you can see anything or look at anything and touch with a finger online, and it's crazy.
And to that point, I think, like you said, like, parents not really understanding social media, not calling all parents old, but, like, they didn't grow up in that sort of thing,
right.
so they don't understand, like, oh, why are you comparing yourself to this guy with a six-pack? It's like,
Yeah.
I want a six-pack and I don't look like that. So, I think there's also that, the lack of understanding.
Yeah, that's a good point.
generations.
And it's evolving all the time too. Just different apps, different programs.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I like that you brought up the notion of listening, because I think really that gets to what we're doing with this project.
Absolutely.
We are encouraging people to share their stories, be vulnerable, and we're encouraging others and empowering others to listen, but also to share their own, in the hopes that we bring back that element of humanity, that element of empathy. And so I appreciate that you brought that up, because that's what we're trying to do here. You're listening to us share our stories on a podcast. You're listening to your neighbors, your friends, your family members, and their struggles. And together we can be there for each other, and we're building stronger and more resilient communities. So thank you for kind of bringing that to light, because I think it really hits to the importance of the storytelling notion that we're trying to drive home with this project. So, as we talk about solutions now to the challenges that we're facing today, I really want to dive into this normalization of the conversations and the reduction of stigma. So this project obviously gets to that. So in your opinions, how do you believe that a digital storytelling project such as 30 Days, 30 Stories has the power to reduce stigma surrounding suicide and the work that we do in the prevention spaces?
Well said, Daisy J.
That's a good point.
What she said, I agree. Yeah.
Well, I have a thought I'll throw out there right away is
Hit us.
you're not alone. Don't trivialize what you're feeling. Don't let that thought in your head, like, I can handle this all by myself, or no one's going to understand. You don't have to just keep carrying that extra baggage around. Like, it's not yours unless you keep carrying around saying it's mine. Like, it's okay to let go of things. Sometimes you carry pain for so long that you're almost scared to let it go. Like, it's just, it's crazy, because, like, the very thing that's hurting you, like, you can let it go and grow so much from that. So you're not alone no matter what you're dealing with. So that's something I hope anyone listening to this would take from that.
Totally. Any other thoughts?
Just to echo what he said, I mean, it's this idea of telling individual stories is great. just because everybody's different, right? So I think, if I was sitting there and listening, I'd be like, oh, I didn't go through exactly what this person did, but I can relate to how they're feeling. And so I think that's great to sort of create a community where it's safe to talk about this thing and safe to feel it, especially in South Dakota, where there's not much of those communities. So I think this is great.
Yeah,
it's great.
And I really appreciate that this project will reach people in a social media stance. So we're going to have an opportunity for somebody who's not maybe able to access getting mental health support, but I'm struggling and I can't find my way out of this. But I saw this thing on resilienttoday.org, this 30 days, 30 stories, and this character was telling me this story about something that happened to them that I just kind of felt, and it was that opportunity for me to feel what they felt and feel like I'm not alone in feeling that, which gave me strength to take the next step to get support, right? And so then I connected with the resource that was on that site that gave me that opportunity to reach out and use that resource. So I think for me, the storytelling opportunity that reduces the stigma is that it is taking something powerful and giving it to people who may not access it some other way, right?
Definitely. I have a follow-up that it's a little off script and totally, off the cuff here, but we're a panel of 4 men, and men, especially in the Midwest, don't often know how to express our feelings or articulate our feelings. We are often taught not to, actually. So I'm curious, from each of your perspectives, why did you participate in this project, and what is that kind of rationale for you?
well, I can start with that. So there's also another thing on that, like on the flip side, if you do, especially for me growing, like if you do like open up and be vulnerable, like you'd be like criticized, picked on. And I got some of that if I tried opening up, like, oh, okay, I guess I'm not doing that. So I hope, I want us, as men, like, to know it's okay to open up and be vulnerable, and wherever you want to get that ear from, whether it's the church you go to, counseling, someone you trust, and if somebody is throwing mud back at you for doing that or make fun of that, that's probably not a good source. But fellas, be bold to just say, I need help with this. Like, it's like I was saying, it's okay to feel this way, but it's not okay to stay there once you realize you need to do something about it.
Definitely. Very well said. Thank you.
No, and to piggyback onto that, I think, especially here, having mental health issues is seen as a weakness if you're a man.
Yeah.
When I think it's the exact opposite. I think you're stronger if you're willing to sort of expose that about yourself. And my experience is, again, a little different. Just because my mom was a mental health counselor, she was very open about feelings and very welcoming to it all. But that being said, I've been around. I mean, I have family members who, still think it's not manly enough to, and you know who I'm talking about. If you're my uncle, you know who I'm talking about. I'm gonna call them out. No, but no, I've also been around that, and I just but for me, that's the whole state. So it's just kind of, yeah. I mean, that's been my experience of kind of being like a little saddened by those men, just because I think and part of this is just me. I just sit there and underneath all that muscle and macho, there's probably something really sad or
right.
or needing some help. So, but yeah, I think it was definitely tough being around that environment and not falling into that and seeing everyone else, and then I start to question myself of oh, should I be bottling it up and not talking about it, or so I think it's not good for the culture here. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Perfect.
Those are great answers.
Yeah.
I'm going to go from kind of a different perspective. Watching my parents be abusive towards each other, and watching my mom just keep getting smaller and smaller because of those things. I really, really, really wanted to change the aspect of that. I wanted men to start realizing that we could be better, not just for ourselves, but for the other people around us, because we can either make people shrink or we can make people glow. Right? We can make people grow. We can make people get bigger. And people did that for me. So coming from that abusive tendency, I shrunk and I felt very small. And then somebody saw that I had potential and gave me the strength and just said, hey, you are great. And I thought, if we as men could realize that we have the power to destroy, or we have the power to build and create, and we utilize that opportunity, what could we accomplish? What could we do? How could we change the future for our children and the future for our wives and the future for our community if we took a different stance and realized that we have to be better? We have to approach things from a point of weakness, but also a point of the ability to realize that weakness is strength, and that I can talk about my feelings and I can take what I know and give it to somebody else and expect a return and have that ebb and flow of energy and positivity. And if we can manage that, we can change the outcome of the direction of our planet, right? And I think it's up to us. I think that it's up to us as men to say, hey, let's be better, let's do better, and let's all do this together. And if we support each other in that, then that we're doing it together. It's not you against me and me against you. It's us for each other, right? And so that's my stance. Like, I think that we as men need to be better. We need to take a stance of being stronger. We need to provide that our children can see that opportunity so that they can be better, right?
Talk about reimagining systems.
Yeah.
Nailed it. Awesome. Well, those were all fabulous answers. I was thinking as we were sitting here, men don't talk about this, and here we are in a room, 4 panelists, and so I was curious what your innate kind of intrinsic value in sharing your story was. So thank you. Now, kind of bringing it back to Lost and Found, and also how we work to prevent suicide by teaming up with other organizations and with universities like Black Hills. What do you all think that we can do to be more effective in that? Is there agencies or entities that you think that we should partner with? Is there a niche, such as the Native population, that we need to be tapping further into? I'm curious your thoughts there.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, the niche of the Native American population, as well as the LGBTQ plus population. I think here it's, those are both big minorities, and it's not necessarily the safest place for those, types of people. So I think, focusing on that and empowering them and sort of giving them a safe space to speak would be great.
Again, I'm very, I'll keep saying, like, I feel like an infant in this realm, but
You got to start somewhere.
that's right.
Baby steps, Patrick.
Baby steps. But just even events, big or small, just having a place for people to come and learn and get information and maybe to share with each other would be a big thing. So when I went to I keep going back to that seminar because it was just a great experience for me. But there was just so much information that you guys handed out, and it was just cool. Like, so there was even like I guess no matter how big or small, just times when we get together to distribute information and to show that there's people that want to hear what you're going through and get you what you need would be great.
My stance is it takes a village. It's going to take all of us to get under the weight of this thing and lift it up. So for me, my approach to Lost and Found and its support systems in the community is let's get everybody on board. Let's let everybody see what we do. Let's see what we can do to support them. I do a lot of work with Great Plains Tribal Chair. I do a lot of work with Mato Abourezk. I'm doing a lot of work with Black Hills State University and Western Dakota Tech and School Alliance to plug them into those resources. I think, again, the stance from a point of view of anybody working in the mental health field is that we can't do this alone. You can't get through your mental health journey alone. The people that are out there to support you can't do it alone. We all have to do it together. This is an us fight, and we have to fight it together.
Amazing. All right. Well, the last question I've got for you is if you could think of one thing to help improve the mental health of young people, what would it be? Very big question.
It is. Man, I think any way that we can give them encouragement is huge. Like your quirks are great. Like the things that make you uniquely you are great. Don't let people squash what makes you uniquely you, and find someone that's going to listen and love you right where you're at. And just because you're young doesn't mean you have something to bring to the table. Like as you get older, you're going to learn more and more. And I think as you get older, it's harder to feel unique because you just get in the daily grind. And so don't let that happen if you if you can, or if you know what I'm saying. So
I think you did a great job.
yeah.
Being the youngest person in this room, and no, I'm kidding. No, I would say,
You're not wrong.
I think from my perspective and from a lot of people that I've talked to, it's going to sound simple, but like learn their language, learn how they think, and sure, you might think like, oh, this is, TikTok is so dumb or whatever, but that's what it takes to sort of relate to them, just because it is an era of social media and everyone is everywhere. I think understanding how they think will make it easier for you to work with them, and then also taking them seriously. I'm not saying you guys don't take them seriously, but just in general, keep that in the back of the mind of like, yes, we're young, and yes, our brains aren't fully developed, but we still have conscious thoughts and choices, and we still don't understand what we're going through. And so I think treating them almost as like an adult, treating them, because these things they carry on to their adulthood. So I think if you show them like, hey, look, I'm taking you serious, like you're not just an angsty teen who's acting out and writing on the wall or something, I don't know, but taking them seriously and learning their sort of culture and their language, because I think that's what happens really, is a disconnect between, oh, when I was young, or oh, whatever. So being open-minded about that, I guess.
I think the millennials need to realize that there's more of them than any other generation of the population, and at some point, we just have to be sure that we're being kind, because they have the power to kick us off the planet.
No, well, yeah, I mean, that too, but it's and and the world is changing because of everyone is more open to certain terms and like pronouns, and that's all amazing stuff. It's just some people don't understand that, and like, for example, I credit my 70-year-old grandpa for sitting me down and asking me like, what are pronouns, what is this, how do I understand it? So follow his lead, like be open to understanding things like that, and keeping up with what's happening and what's cool to say, what's not cool to say, what's changed. That'd be my advice.
I'm going to just say this one thing, and then I'm going to leave it to you, Joel. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be kind.
I love that. All right. Well, thank you all so much for being here. Before we wrap up, though, I just want to ask each of you to share one thing, and this can be mental health related or not, that you wish everyone understood about making this world a little bit better place.
That's a good question. I think another thing that social media has done is it divides people so crazy. Like, it's an extreme one way or the other, but you don't have to agree with someone to love them, and that's okay. Like, that's what makes our society awesome, is it's so many different points of views, backgrounds, and I don't have to understand it to love you. I don't have to, let me back up a little bit. I want to understand you, but even if I don't agree, I'm going to see beautiful things about you, and it's okay for you to be who you are, even if I don't understand it. And I think
I love that.
social media just makes it like, if you don't agree with this, then you're wrong and you're a bad person. And I think that's something I wish we could get rid of, because, you know, I'm Christian, but I'm not going to like hate someone because they're gay or they're, you know, it's not, I can't do that. I can't look at people that way. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to understand it, but I'm going to love you. And I never want someone to walk away from me feeling like they're less than what they were after we talked. I want them to feel like, hey, there's something special with this guy. If there's anything, like, I'm always here for somebody. I want to be that salt and light of the world, you know. And also, I don't want someone to walk away feeling like it's not okay for them to be here, because we're all valuable. None of us are replaceable.
Definitely.
Can you say the question again? Sorry, I was listening. I need to hear the question again.
What is one thing that you want everyone to know about, this can be mental health related or not, about making the world a better place? One thing that you want everyone to know and to understand.
Yeah. Learn the zipper system when driving and getting in the... Learn that. That'd be great. No, I think mental health wise, you know, I think just don't, it's going to be scary at first, taking that first step, but even that first step is more than most people do. So, you know, just, I mean, it's not just do it, it's not Nike, but like, you know, it's going to be terrifying, and it's going to be one of the biggest things that you've ever had to do in your life. And you might find it at your lowest point. You might even find it at your objectively highest point. But, you know, like we've said a bunch of times, you're not alone in this. And there's people that love you, whether they be family or not. You know, there's always someone that loves you. So, yeah, that's what I would say.
I have a little blurb that I put in my trainings, and it is embrace the differences and explore the commonalities. I think that each and every one of us bring a very unique perspective of journey to the story. And I think that if we embrace it, if we take that opportunity to see it, it's going to make us richer. It's going to make us better. It's going to make us understand there's more to life than just what we know. And isn't that the whole point? Right?
Yeah. Wonderful. I love it. Thank you all so much for being here. I appreciate it. Mato, Corey, Patrick, thank you for not only submitting your stories and sharing them with the world, but also for joining us on the podcast today. Audience, thank you all for being here. Perfect. All right. Well, we will wrap then. Listeners, as I said at the top of the episode, this podcast is recorded live at Black Hills State University today. So just once again wanted to say thank you to the university for supporting us in the work that we do, but also to our guests and audience members that are here. So thank you. Additionally, I just wanted to make sure that all of you know what the 30 Days, 30 Stories project is. So you can check that out at 30stories.org, and it is our digital storytelling project for National Suicide Prevention Month that engages 30 South Dakotans who are living with mental health or illness, suicide-related illnesses or experiences, and we are encouraging them to share their stories and reduce the stigma surrounding mental health. So go check that out. Once again, that is 30, the number 30stories.org. If you want to learn more about Lost and Found, you can check us out at resilienttoday.org. And in the meantime, until the next episode, stay well. Thanks so much for listening. Remember to subscribe, rate, and review Great Minds wherever you listen to your podcasts. For more information about Lost and Found, go to resilienttoday.org. That's ResilientToday.org. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube at Resilient Today. Until next time, do more and stay well.